Battle of Marathon took place during the first Persian invasion of Greece, beginning in 492 BC. The invasion was ordered by the Persian king Darius I to punish Athens and Eretria for taking part in the Ionian Revolt. There were two campaigns of the first invasion. The first began in 492 BC and placed Thrace and Macedon fully under Persian rule. The first campaign was brought to an end when the Persian fleet wrecked in a storm. After the first campaign was brought to an end, Darius sent ambassadors to all of Greece demanding they submit to his rule. There were only two states that refused his demands, Athens and Sparta, who proceeded to execute the ambassadors.
This is Sparta!
This was seen as an act of war by Darius, and he commanded a second campaign be conducted in 490 BC. The second Persian invasion began as an island-hopping campaign, conquering them and annexing them under the Persian Empire. Once conquering the islands in the Aegean, they turned and landed at Eretria, which was besieged and shortly captured. Once capturing Eretria, burning the city and enslaving its citizens, the Persians sailed south to Attica and landed at the Bay of Marathon, intent on having Athens share a similar fate. The Athenians knew of the Persians' intent to land at Marathon, and chose to go to battle under their terms. A messenger named Philippides was sent to Sparta to ask for their assistance in the upcoming battle. Philippides covered the distance from Athens to Sparta, some 140 miles, in only 2 days, delivered the message, and then returned to Athens, totaling almost 250 miles run in less than a week. Unfortunately, the message was delivered during the Spartan festival of Carnea, which prevented them from marching to aid the Athenians for at least 10 days. The Athenian army was bolstered by 1,000 hoplites from the city of Plataea, which did a great deal to increase the morale of the Athenians. The position the Athenians were in on the plain of Marathon was well protected. They blocked the only two exits all about the plain, and their flanks were well protected by the terrain. The Athenians and the Persians faced off across the plain for 5 days before finally doing battle. Each day delayed was a day sooner that the Spartan troops would arrive. However, any other reason for this delay is mostly unknown. Miltiades, the mastermind behind the setup at Marathon, was very eager to attack, however, didn't. It's speculated that the battle happened when it did because Ionian scouts saw the Persian cavalry departing and loaded back onto the ships. Our game today is being played in 3mm, with each base representing 1,000 men. The armies number 11,000 for the Athenians and 20,000 for the Persians. The actual number of Persian troops present is unknown. Ancient historian estimates vary wildly, with estimates from 50,000 men to 300,000 men. Modern historians have a much more reasonable estimates, with anywhere between 20,000 and 35,000 troops being present. Historically, Spartan troops sent did not arrive until the day after the battle. However, with them having every possibility to arrive in time, a die was rolled to determine if the Spartans would arrive in time. The gods looked down upon Athens in her time of crisis, and 2,000 Spartans arrived to join the battle. The battle begins as most ancient battles do, two large armies staring at each other across the field. Gradually, the commanders begin to urge their men forward. As the gap begins to close, and as the Athenians begin to come in the range, the Persians let loose with thousands of arrows. Many of the arrows do little damage, either missing their mark due to being at extreme range, or by simply bouncing off the heavy hoplite armor. Almost as soon as the hail of arrows subsides, the elite Persian immortal, making up the center of the Persian army, crashes into the Greeks. The Spartans move up to assist Themistocles to prevent his troops from becoming outflanked. However, in protecting the flank of Themistocles, the Spartans find themselves being outflanked. The immortals outnumber the Greeks in the center almost 4-1, and seeing this drastic difference, move their second line of troops too far forward, a maneuver that will not be beneficial in the future. Spartans on the flank take the incoming immortals exactly as one would expect of Spartans. The immortals crash against the phalanx and are unable to gain a strong foothold. Some of the Spartan training must have rubbed off on the Athenians, or perhaps the gods simply favor the Greeks. for almost as soon as the fighting began, one of the Persian leaders, Datis, was captured and his men routed. This loss was only the beginning in a long line of misfortune for the Persians. The gods certainly favored the Greeks for this battle, as they consistently continued to roll high. Over on the unengaged flanks, the Persian armors continued to harass the closing Greeks, this time many of their arrows finding their marks, demoralizing and causing one unit of hoplites to fall back. This small victory is short-lived as the hoplites crash into the weak Persian flanks. As the flanks begin to engage, the immortals are very close to breaking the Athenian center. The Spartans have been routed, but their leader, Leonidas, having narrowly escaped capture, now fights with the Greeks' right flank. Themistocles and his men alone hold off the crushing weight of the immortals, but once again the gods favor the Greeks, and the Persians' right flank completely collapses as the hoplites force them to flee to their ships so fast that their leader gets left behind and is captured. The Greeks are then able to turn the flank and completely break the morale of the Persians. The defeat of the Persians at Marathon effectively ended the invasion and infuriated Darius, and he fully intended to return to Greece and punish the impudent states of Athens and Sparta. However, internal issues in the empire delayed his second invasion until after Darius died. His son, Xerxes I, would take up his mantle and return to Greece to finish what his father started.